welcome to iHorror episode 31, or season 2, episode 9. I am your host, James J. Edwards, and with me yet again, Jacob Davidson. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good, just a little tired. I'm going to be getting into it, but having a full weekend at Monsterpalooza.
All right. Well, yeah, we can't wait to hear about that. But before we do, let's hear from the third member of our trio, John Correa. How you doing, John?
Doing well. Got a new setup here on my end, so the listeners won't see it, but I am sitting from the comfort of my new bed, which is awesome.
And I'm not hearing it yet, but I can't wait to hear how it sounds during editing. I'm a little worried about some things, but I'm also really excited about others. And so you'll know if he sounds like crap on this one, the new setup is a failure. If he sounds great, it was a success.
It's a success for me. My back feels so supported right now.
Yeah, and I'm for it because I've actually been doing recordings of the podcast from the comfort of my bed this whole time. So now John's joining me. So now all we need is James to do the podcast from his bed, and then we've got like a theme going.
I have too much going on. I think that I have the most elaborate setup because I've got the microphone into the mixer, into the recorder with the computer. I mean, I have more going on, so I don't know. It's a bigger production for me to get to a bed.
Hey, I have my mic on a stand now going into my bed, and my bed in the upright position. I got one of those old people hospital beds now that folds up. Ooh, let me tell you something. Worthwhile investment.
Let's move on. What's been going on this week? I know that one thing that has gone on this week, the big thing, and all of us, I believe, have seen it, It Chapter 2. What's our consensus on It Chapter 2? I have a feeling that we might be disagreeing. What'd you think? Let's go Jacob first.
Oh, you got to put me front and center, don't you?
Well, I think you might have the most positive view of it.
Okay,
let's hear it.
I really dug it. I thought it was good. It was a good conclusion to the saga. And I thought it was funny, and it was very well made. I'd say it wasn't quite as scary as the first one, but I feel like it kind of shifted more into drama. Just the casting though, it's just such an amazing ensemble cast with like James McAvoy and Bill Hader.
James Ransone is the perfect Eddie. Whenever they would show the kid Eddie and James Ransone, I'm like, dude, it could be his dad.
I thought they aged him. Like they just like stuck him in a machine because like the mannerisms between the two of them were just so spot on. It was scary.
That was my favorite casting, was James Ransone as Eddie.
And not to mention Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Well, she knocks it out of the park and everything.
Yeah, and she was like the first one to try and get that role. Like, I think like didn't when It Chapter 1 come out, like she was like, I gotta be in it.
Yeah, and she had worked with Andy Muschietti on Mama as well. So there was a history there. And honestly, when Jessica Chastain approaches you and says, I want to be in the sequel to this, what are you going to do? Say no? It's like, we really had our eye on Bryce Dallas Howard. I mean, no. You say yes to Jessica Chastain. So yeah, that's she's a good Beverly. What about you, Korea? What'd you think of It Chapter 2?
Ooh, Context, first of all, if you've ever read the book or saw the miniseries, the adult part of it has always been very meh. It's always been not that good. It's not as scary as the kids. There's always like some weird like I'm going to say the second half of it is very lackluster. Like, because I mean, when you're a kid, demonic clowns is much more terrifying, and even in the miniseries recognized it when Pennywise would always be like, I don't want you anymore, you're too old for me, there wasn't a whole lot of that in this. So that being said, I think I went into the movie with very low expectations. Like, yes, I was excited for it, but I also recognized like this isn't good source material for the most part. But I thought it was the best version of that second half of it out there between the book, the miniseries. I thought they handled it very well for what was available. I like that they used the ritual that was absent from the miniseries. That was awesome. But I also thought that device kind of made it very formulaic, because it was with each person, it was like, oh, you have to go find your totem. Something spooky is going to happen. Then we're going to cut it to the next person. And it kind of became repetitive a little bit.
It was almost episodic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked really well. I mean, with this, once it got to like the scares and stuff, it worked really well. The casting was obviously perfect. There was a few things that I thought was a bit problematic, mostly with Bill Hader's character. Name. Richie. The main thing that kind of like stuck out with me that didn't really work well was wait, are we discussing spoilers or is it too soon?
It's kind of too soon, I think, because it's just but I mean, hey, fast forward a couple minutes if you don't want this to be spoiled, if it's spoilable, because it was made into a miniseries and there was a book. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, so spoiler alert, if you guys want to skip over a little bit, but by this time this comes out, it's been out for a few weeks and everything. Anyways, in the movie, they show that Richie's character is gay. And there's one point where Pennywise kind of works on that angle to really mess with his head. But they don't really do anything with it. It's just one scene where they basically say it and then show nothing with it afterwards. It was Waylon is writing a really great article about this right now for iHorror about how it's classic queer coding with that. And that was just one of those things that like really just kind of like left me being like, I'm glad that they had a character who was, but the fact that they didn't do anything with it, just, I don't know. Even at the end, I wish he had just came out to his friends at least.
Well, that's the thing. My view on that is, first of all, do we know that his friends didn't know? Because they make it, and we're still spoiling. So if you dropped in at this point, go forward a couple more minutes. Because at one point, Pennywise says, "Oh, I know your secret." And at first I thought maybe his secret was that he was gay, but then I think his secret may have been that he was in love with Eddie.
Yeah,
more than the fact because but did his friends not know that he was gay? I mean, I wasn't convinced that he was closeted, but I do think that no one knew he was in love with Eddie, especially Eddie.
I can see that. I didn't see that. Yeah, I mean him being in love with Eddie, I did see a lot of that, but it didn't dawn on me that could be the secret.
Yeah,
for me, as from my viewing, especially after that very intense opening.
Oh my God, that
was so uncomfortable to sit through. That was so rough. But because that opening sequence of a gay couple getting the shit beaten out of them, I was like, is there like a connection with that? Is that a reason why he hasn't come out? Is that why there isn't that moment at the end?
My impressions of it is, first of all, I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. I love the casting. The source material isn't as good, which is why I don't think it's as strong of a movie as Chapter 1. It's not as scary. For me, the scariest parts were, like you mentioned, that opening scene, the gay bash scene, and then also the domestic violence within Beverly's relationship before she goes back. Those were the two parts that really terrified me, and the Pennywise stuff is just like, seen it. I almost think that they show Pennywise too much in this one, because there's no, although there isn't any mystery because we saw him in the other one. But my issue with it was about an hour too long. Especially that never-ending third act. That final battle just goes on and on and on, and you're like, okay, come on, I don't have anywhere to be, but this is old. So I was a little, I won't say that I didn't like it, and it is necessary to see if you've seen Chapter 1 just for closure, but it's not nearly as good as the first one, I don't think, and it's definitely not nearly as scary.
I mean, I get having it being a bit longer, if only to kind of make up, because I rewatched the miniseries the other day. It was on Sci-Fi, and while I was in traveling, and like, man, dude, the ending to the miniseries is really bad. Like, that final fight scene is fucking terrible. And so I can kind of see like the whole motivation of like wanting to up that, wanting to give a bit more, but I do think it went a bit too long. And I mean, like, did it really need to be that long and not include Maturin, the magical space turtle that is its natural enemy, and the one thing that connects it with the Dark Tower for all you Stephen King nerds out there?
I heard there was a scene cut that actually had the turtle.
There were scenes cut? They didn't put everything they shot into that? There's a director's cut of it? Oh my gosh.
It's just like, oh shit, there's going to be a long cut?
Well, yeah, the super cut. let's talk about, there's going to be a super cut of both movies kind of merged together into one super It movie.
You want to know the runtime so far that they're estimating, James?
Yeah, sure.
6 hours.
That's about what I would expect it to be. Speaking of director's cuts, well, are we moving on from it? Let's move on from it, because we'll talk about it a little bit later.
Over it.
Speaking of director's cuts, either you guys see the director's cut of Midsommar?
No.
No, I didn't.
I did. It is. I think Midsommar is my favorite movie of the year. And the director's cut, it's about a half an hour longer. But here's the thing. When I was watching it, I was thinking the trimming that Ari Aster did is kind of like the trimming of this podcast that I do, because there's only really 2 scenes that are excised completely. And one of them is necessary, and one of them is not as necessary, but one of them is a conversation between Danny and Christian where it explains why he's being such a dick to her after it happens. So there's kind of like this weird jump, not really a jump, but there's this weird point in the movie where he just starts being colder to her. And this conversation is why, which isn't in the regular cut. But a lot of it is, if you can believe it or not, it moves slower than the already slowly paced original cut. And what it is there's just little snippets like here and there that he cut out that are in the director's cut that are longer, and there's little shots that are in there, or just snippets of dialogue. It's just little seconds here, seconds there. And then these 2 main scenes, it doesn't explain what happened to Mark, the Will Poulter character, which that's what I really wanted to see. But it does explain what happens to Connie a lot better, the British girl. It's weird because it's almost 3 hours, but it is, and I'm a huge fan of the 80-minute slasher. I mean, nothing makes me happier than seeing a runtime on a movie that's sub 90 minutes. But I enjoyed the director's cut probably more than the real movie. So that's saying something when it comes to me. So anyway, I don't know if it's even playing in theaters anymore. I heard that it's going to be an Apple TV exclusive on streaming, which kind of sucks.
They were misquoted with that. I think the director's cut is they've gone back and reworded what it was, because I think it was just someone misreported saying that it was an exclusive, but it's not an exclusive. The director's cut might be an exclusive to digital, but it should be available on all digital fronts.
Okay, so it's not going to be on the Blu-ray release, but you'll be able to get it. Okay,
and that's my understanding. It could change.
That's better for me because I don't have Apple. Although Apple TV's launching their own service, and I think they are going to have apps on, Roku, and they're going to be more accessible. But anyway, what else has been going on with you guys? Let's hear about Jacob's weekend.
Yeah, like I was saying before, I've been at Son of Monsterpalooza up in Burbank, the horror sci-fi fantasy convention that happens twice a year. And I had a great time yesterday. I got to go to the preview panel for Creepshow with Greg Nicotero, and it looks really good. Like, really fucking good. They showed a clip. Well, they showed a new trailer they mixed together and a clip for an episode called The Companion, written by Joe R. Lansdale from Bubba Hotep and directed by David Bruckner from The Ritual.
Is it? Does it have the same vibe as at least the first 2 Creepshow movies? Is it like that comic booky thing?
Awesome. Yeah, I was watching and there was a shot where a dude's running up the stairs and there's like that kind of neon-ish purple lighting behind him while he's trying to run from the monsters. So yeah, it's there, man. It is completely on brand.
And this is a Shudder thing?
Yep, it's going to be a Shudder exclusive streaming show. I think they're doing 2 stories an episode.
When does it launch?
I think it's going to be dropping in October. I don't quite remember what the date was. And then the other big panel I did was the 40th anniversary Phantasm panel, where they basically had everybody they could get for Phantasm. Like Don Coscarelli was there, Reggie was there, A. Michael Baldwin was there, Yeah, they just had like as many people as they could get, and it was hosted by Joe Lynch, and it was really heartwarming. Just kind of hearing everybody talk about just how shocked they were that they had a sold out panel, and that the movie had made such an impact some 40 years on. So it was really great to see that. And apparently Gigi Bannister, Reggie Bannister's wife, is doing a documentary called Women of Phantasm that's going to be doing a panel today, where it's basically a documentary about all the women that have been involved in the making of the Phantasm franchise. So like herself and the Lady in Lavender, Rocky from Phantasm 3. So it does sound very interesting. Oh, and also on the Phantasm 40th anniversary, apparently Well-Go USA is releasing a 40th anniversary Silver Sphere box set with all 5 of the movies on it in like little Silver Sphere.
Didn't we I feel like I just got a Phantasm box like a year ago. Is it one of those things that they're just like pumping out a new one? Because there's a new Suspiria coming out now that we all just...
Oh, the 4K disc?
Now that we all just dropped $60 on the last one, and now
Well, that the original Well-Go Blu-ray set for Phantasm is long out of print. It was released 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say, at this point.
Yeah, that's the one that I've got.
Yeah, that went out of print a while ago. And then Arrow has its own Sphere box set as well, that you have to import from the UK, I believe. But as far as the full collection in the US that's available right now, the only thing that's available is the DVD collection
and the individual Blu-rays. Although I think are there some rights issues with Phantasm 2 right now, because I think the Scream Factory version's out of print.
I feel like there have been rights issues with all of them except for the first one. So I don't know. I don't know. I know that it was a big feat that they were able to get them all into the same box, kind of like Halloween,
right?
When Scream / Mill Creek, I think, was it Mill Creek or Anchor Bay?
Yeah,
Anchor Bay.
Whenever that was a huge deal, and I think that Phantasm is the same kind of a deal with their rights. Next is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If they can get all those rights to align, that would be an even bigger one.
I mean, that Friday the 13th set where they had it through Freddy versus Jason was pretty incredible, because that's 3 different studios. Oh wait, no, because they had the remake in it too. So that was 3 different studios that they had come together for that one, which is never happening again, let's be honest, with all the legal issues happening there.
Yeah, and that tin set, that thing goes for like
$300-400.
I wish that I had bought it when I saw it for $60.
Right.
Are we ready to move on to our subgenre, which we kind of already tipped our hat to when we said we'd talk more about it? What do we got for our subgenre?
We are talking clowns.
Clown movies. Now, before we start on this, are either of you afraid of clowns?
Not really.
Because I'm not, but I know people who are. They're literally terrified of clowns. So it is a legit fear. I mean, obviously, because there are so many movies.
There's this great line I heard a while ago. I don't remember the source, but it was something like, seeing a clown at your front door at midnight will make you afraid.
Yeah, I can see, but seeing anybody at my front door at midnight would probably make me afraid. I know people who are legit afraid of clowns, but the thing is, they love, like, It is like their favorite movie. You know, the old miniseries It. So,
right.
We've talked about it when it came out, but as far as clown movies go, I think we have to bring up Terrifier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Terrifier, as far as modern clowns go, that dude, I mean, and part of it is just because he's so damn brutal, and he's not like Pennywise, where he's not like a funny clown that turns evil. He's evil from the get-go. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the makeup and prosthetics of his, it's like, there's nothing beep Richie about this guy. He's just evil.
And interestingly enough, he's mute, kind of like a mime, really.
Yeah, yes.
And yeah, actually, oh man, that when I first saw Art the Clown, I have to admit, I even had a nightmare about him, because that clown is so freaky looking.
Now, are we just going with creepy clowns or horror clowns? Because that crosses so many genres.
Well, what do you got in mind? What do you want to talk about? Something. Talk about it.
Mainly, I just when it comes to creepy clowns, I want to bring up. Have you guys ever seen the comedy Shakes the Clown?
Yes, I have seen Shakes the Clown.
Not Shakes himself, but there's a clown in it The movie's made by Bobcat Goldthwait, who does he's dabbled in horror and he does do really creepy, scary stuff in it, even in his comedies. But there's one who in the movie, one of the clowns is played by the voice actor of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, Tom Kenny.
Tom Kenny, and Tom Kenny's clown in that movie is just so creepy, and all he does is just like belittle Shakes and do a shit ton of cocaine, and it's just even creepier hearing the voice of SpongeBob doing coke. The creep factor goes up much higher with that.
Is that the movie where the clowns are always fighting with the mimes?
Yes.
Is that, it's like a Warriors thing where they're like mimes.
But yeah, I mean, I'd say for me, the clown that always scared me the most as a kid was the one in Poltergeist. I mean,
oh yeah, because it's a clown doll.
Oh yeah, it's a doll. Just like when the arm wraps around the kid and pulls him under. Nope. No thanks.
And I would be remiss if we didn't mention the killer clowns from outer space.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those things scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, but it did lead to one of the Dickie's best albums out there. I mean,
it's true. But
awesome
yeah,
album.
just because like they're literal monster clowns. They were created by the Chiodo brothers, so like there's a bit of an uncanny valley element there. Just because like they're like animatronics and puppets and people in costume, and the way they take people out, like they have those cotton candy ray guns that wrap you up in cotton candy and they drink your blood.
We need to give, if we're talking about horror clowns, we need to give a shout out to Captain Spaulding himself, Sid Haig, who had a little bit of a health scare, but I guess he's on the mend. There was a social media post from his wife saying, he's feeling much better, so get well soon. If you're not well already by the time this podcast comes out, Sid, because modern horror clowns, Captain Spaulding is the man.
He is. And I mean, Sid Haig has done so much for film. I mean, just in
Spider Baby,
come on.
Galaxy of Terror.
He was one of Corman's right-hand guys back in the day.
Yeah.
What movie was he a judge in? Was it My Cousin Vinny? No, that was Fred Gwynn. What was he? Oh, Jackie Brown. He was the judge in Jackie Brown. Okay, got it. Okay, before we move away from clowns and on to our topic, let's settle this. Bill Skarsgård or Tim Curry? We're not going to settle this, are we?
That's a very loaded question.
That's two different flavors of ice cream, man. Like,
see, that's the thing. The smartest thing Skarsgård did in doing Pennywise is not even try to do Tim Curry doing Pennywise.
Yeah.
Because his is a completely different, and his is almost scarier in like, he would be a clown that people would have a nightmare about, whereas you never get the feeling that Skarsgård's Pennywise is like a nice, circus clown, whereas Tim Curry's you do until his teeth get sharp, and then you're like, oh, whoa, So Bill Skarsgård's clown is always a little sinister, whereas Tim Curry's makes that left turn, and you're like, oh, holy shit, So
I feel the difference is Tim Curry's Pennywise has more charisma, like he's
a sassy.
Yeah, he's a
predator.
Talker. He's
yes.
He knows how to reel you in. Well,
beep, Richie.
Yeah,
he's the seducer, whereas Skarsgård's is just the abductor.
Yeah.
Tim Curry's is like the seducer, but Bill Skarsgård, he's kind of like those fish that have the light hanging in front of him to lure.
Anglers.
Like, he's more of a lure, whereas like Tim Curry's Pennywise, you'll invite him over for dinner before he shows his teeth. I will say this though about It Chapter 2, that scene under the bleachers at the game.
Oh yeah.
Why wasn't that the teaser? Because like the whole first part of that scene with the girl with the scar and stuff played out like an Amblin film with like the music and the camera movement, and then like Bill Skarsgård's great, like nobody likes me because of my face.
That scene was the equivalent of the Georgie scene from the first part.
Yeah.
So you're right. That should have been the trailer for it. Should have just been that scene. Kind of like the first trailer of the first one was just the Georgie scene.
Yeah, although they did, Skarsgård did use it when he was doing the late night circuit. Like they used the beginning of that clip. So I think that, although I agree, that was a great hook.
There was this. I was reading this interview with I think it was with Bill Hader, where he said that he was talking to Bill Skarsgård about some of the stuff. He's like, "What CG did they do?" Like, because I guess Bill Skarsgård can move his eyes in two different directions. He's all,
he's got a bit of a lazy eye.
Yeah. He's all, what CG effect did they use to do that? He's all, "Oh, you mean this?" And the Hader was like, "Ah!" And he can do. There are pictures of him doing the Pennywise smile without the prosthetics, and a lot of it is CG and prosthetic, but a lot of it isn't. He can really do that stuff with his face.
Which is why that interview with Colbert was so brilliant when he's teaching Colbert the smile and stuff. And like you could see like it's just him talking normally, but like every now and then he does like a little face twitch and it's just like, I saw Pennywise. But my favorite story to come out of behind the scenes for It Chapter 2 is the fact that Bill Hader, when he gets scared, he doesn't scream, he laughs. So and especially when they first started filming, he kept fucking up so many takes because he'd get legitimately scared and just start laughing his ass off. And they're like, no, you're supposed to scream.
Do either of you guys think that iHorror writer Trey Hilborn looks like Bill Skarsgård? I totally think I always think that he is. Whenever I see a picture of Trey like on Facebook or something, I'm like, oh, he looks just like he should be Pennywise for Halloween.
Little bit. This is not an insult. But
No, it isn't at all. No, I don't mean it as an insult. I just mean it as an observation. It's like he looks like. I mean, I don't think Bill Skarsgård's a bad looking dude, so I don't.
You can't say any of the Skarsgårds are bad looking. I mean, they're a very attractive family.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our topic, which what are we calling it? Controversial movies, I think is what we're saying.
Well, just controversies.
Yeah.
Modern day video nasties.
Modern day video, there you go. Modern day video nasties. It sprung up because we were kind of thinking about this whole The Hunt debacle that by now you've all heard. The Hunt was pulled from theaters. Basically, here's my take on it. Okay. The Hunt is supposedly about liberals hunting conservatives, rich liberals hunting conservatives. But, okay, there have been two movies that have come out in the last few weeks, Ready or Not and Satanic Panic, which are about rich people hunting poor, and there was no stink about those at all. But The Hunt gets pulled, and here's what I think happened. Because Donald Trump he came out on Twitter complaining about this movie, which he complains about everything on Twitter, but his followers take what he says very seriously. And I think Universal pulled it because he already sounded the dog whistle and they wanted to avoid, because this also comes on the heels of the El Paso and the Dayton shootings. They wanted to avoid basically a theater shooting. They wanted to avoid another Dark Knight, where someone goes into a theater and just starts shooting. So they pulled it, which, I mean, as much as I want to see The Hunt, I think it's probably a pretty good idea because, like I said, the dog whistle's already been sounded. And there are people who legitimately go out and shoot places up, and they say because Trump told them to. Now, these people are mentally ill. You can't, I think Trump could be a little more careful with his words, but you can't blame him completely if somebody takes his message and acts on it, But I legitimately think that the reason Universal pulled The Hunt is because they wanted to avoid another Colorado theater shooting. What do you guys think?
Yeah, because I mean, we don't get political on the show. We don't. We're here to talk about horror, and we're not here to dismiss anybody's political views as much as we sometimes want to. But when it comes down to it, is we do live in a time where this is too much of an occurrence, and if there is any inclination that something could happen, why wouldn't we take every step? Don't get me wrong. I want to see The Hunt. I'm a horror fan. I love that subgenre of world's greatest game,
most dangerous game.
Yeah.
World's most dangerous game, but no movie is worth someone's life. I work in production. We take safety very serious. We always look out for each other, saying like, hey, are you exhausted? Do you need something? Do you need this? Hey, we shouldn't shoot this there. No film is worth someone's life. And if there's any inclination, whether it's politically motivated or it doesn't matter what the motivation is, if there's any inclination of being able to prevent something like that, you got to jump on it. Granted, this is it's insane. I like in doing research for this episode, I tried looking into other movies that have been pulled from theaters before for anything near this, and it was hard to find some that weren't like, you know, the video nasties in the UK or Germany where they ban films much more frequently than we do. So it was definitely, it's been an interesting research for the last few days.
Unprecedented that they would pull it even before release. Like just pull. I mean, they did that with The Interview.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, they did it with The Interview, but that was also because Kim Jong-un, he was like offended. You know, he was like making threats.
And then Sony got hacked.
Yeah, and it got released anyway. But I mean, but again, with that, at least we've seen, and I do think that we are going to see The Hunt at some point.
Oh yeah.
Which, because I mean, it's Craig Zobel's. He's one of my favorite modern filmmakers. I mean, he made Compliance, which is, I think I've already gushed about Compliance.
Yeah, I'm never seeing it again though.
Yeah. Yeah, Compliance is one of those take a shower afterwards movies. It's but it is one of the greatest made movies of the 21st century, I think.
Yeah, and just, you know, like this whole situation, you know, just it rubs me the wrong way for a number of reasons. First off, being, you know, just it, you know, just like, you know, the president should not condemn a movie in this regard. It is not right. And second, it's like it seemed like it was like he was doing it for the wrong reason, because the setting of the movie is like, from what I understand, like rich, like I'm not
liberals.
sure. Like rich liberals are hunting like poor, rural, more right-leaning people, and you know, this is the thing. Like, I don't think the president has context for stories, or is really able to understand these nuances, because, you know, it's like it's clearly that the movie was going to be on the side of the people being hunted. It's not like it was like, yay, these people are hunting these poor right-leaning people. No. It was like
they were the heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the clips they've released and stuff, and footage they've released for the film, show this like very over-the-top evil caricature of these rich liberals, where they're like hunting and they're like, this is for not believing in climate change, you know. So like they're definitely leaning, and it's not like we haven't seen horror films that have similar plots that were very outspoken of being anti-Trump even. I mean, the Purge series has been very, very vocal. I mean,
I'm gonna say that the Purge. Nobody was tweeting about the Purge. Nobody was tweeting about Ready or Not. I mean, I don't know why people picked on The Hunt. I mean, I do know why, but I think it's misguided, because there's plenty of other. It's hard to say what makes Trump hit Twitter sometimes. I mean.
And the thing is like the president, like, you know, they talk a lot about like he doesn't really read books, but I don't think he really sees movies either. Cause,
I don't think so at all.
Because I don't think he can understand storytelling, which is why, like, I remember a bit ago, like he misconstrued some words from David Lynch about him, and me and my friends were really hoping he'd like try to like cement it by watching David Lynch movies and see what happens, because I don't think he could handle it.
I think also a huge major factor is the timing. I think the fact that they started their advertising, like full swing advertising campaign, and then these two shootings happen. When a national tragedy happens, people want answers as to why it happened. And oftentimes, especially when it comes to politics, people are looking for not only answers, but where to throw the blame. I mean, all administrations are guilty of this. I'm not saying it's Democratic or Republican. All are guilty of shifting blame or shifting focus when it comes to things. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. We saw after those shootings, again, the whole argument of video games causing violence and all these reoccurring scapegoats that we've been discussing for years popped up again. And then suddenly here's this movie where it's like, oh, It's in the public conscious because they're advertising it a lot. It seemed like an easy scapegoat to just like throw the blame at real quick. The issue with that is, again, we're living in a time where people take things very serious and to extremist levels. So I don't blame Universal or Blumhouse or anybody for pulling it. Even the director came out and said that he fully supports it because, again, no film is worth endangering lives. So, but going back to how this is an unprecedented event, I would say it sets a scary tone, sets a scary standard, not just for horror, but for really the arts in general on censorship. This is what it comes down to. Suddenly a political figure or any figure of note can condemn something before. I mean, the closest thing that I came to in my research of like this big of a controversy with the horror film was Silent Night, Deadly Night. And that film primarily got its controversy due to it showing a killer Santa Claus in the trailers beforehand. I think it was Ebert wrote like a really scandalous review saying that it's a disgusting, deplorable film that's showing in, in reputable theaters right now. And he like really slapped, but he saw the film. Like he saw the whole thing and then gave his opinion on it. And that film played in theaters and then was pulled. That's the difference between I think between the two films is that one at least came out. That one at least was able to be judged. And then it was, this was all done based off of a few clips in a trailer.
Yep.
This judgment.
This is also kind of, although I don't know if it ever hit theaters, but there was a similar stink to this with Faces of Death, where, but the reason that Faces of Death got pulled, quote pulled, because it's hard to pull because it was home video, is there was some elementary school teacher who had a VCR in her class, and students who had free time could go watch videos that they had over there, and they had a copy of Faces of Death over there. And of course, that didn't fly with parents, and that shined a big light on Faces of Death. This is the first Faces of Death, and there are what, 8 of them, 10 of them. I mean, at this point, everybody thought Faces of Death was real, and there's like, oh, our kids are watching footage of real death. It's like, so and, that was another kind of one of the. But again, that wasn't. Those still got released. It's not actually censorship. Or in Silent Night, Deadly Night, there was a way to see that. And it's walking the line on censorship because it was actually Universal that chose to pull it. They could have released it, but I think for the safety of their audiences, they chose to pull it. So it's not like the government came out and said, do not release this movie. So it's not, it's walking a line, but it's not really a First Amendment thing because they didn't actually silence the movie. They just made it very uncomfortable and unsafe to release it at that juncture in time. And again, I do think that we are all going to see The Hunt at some point, and I honestly can't wait.
I do have another example in terms of a horror movie being pulled, and that would be Adam Green's Hatchet 2.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, I was just researching the details again because I remember this happening back in October 2010. It was released in unrated in 68 theaters across the United States by AMC Theaters as a part of their AMC Independent program, and then it was also scheduled to be released in Toronto and Montreal theaters in Canada on the same day, but it was pulled because it was not rated by the city's provincial rating agencies. And then the film was also pulled from U.S. theaters only a few days later on October 4th after October 1st. And although, so a part of that was just because it was unrated and probably controversial, but the bigger reasoning was probably because there was some issues between the filmmakers and the MPAA. So it might have been kind of a political thing.
Yeah, because I remember when that came out, because Hatchet 2 definitely has some like over-the-top graphic scenes. I mean,
oh yeah,
Victor Crowley hangs someone with his own intestines.
Yep.
So I mean,
is that the one where there's an axe to the head? And I think Adam Green said that the difference between R rating and unrated was 3 hits and 30 hits.
Yep.
Was that a Hatchet 2?
Yep, that was Hatchet 2. That was the one.
30 hits.
And again, that one was shown, and yeah, I mean, there's no official law against releasing films unrated. There's no law saying that you have to submit to the MPAA, but there is dealings with theaters, and especially theater chains, that where they have to deal with the MPAA, and some theaters can't release films that have been not rated. So the fact that it was being released, even if just a few theaters on a major chain, definitely rubbed the MPAA the wrong way. And the MPAA, there's a great documentary called "This Has Not Yet Been Rated."
This film has not yet been rated, I think it's called.
That's
Something
what
like
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
And it goes over the influence of the MPAA, and how they're terrible. I'm not a fan of them. If that's most political I'll get this episode is I don't like the MPAA. Sorry, I just don't.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. Like, I think one-sided reason was that I think like an official reason was it was pulled because not a lot of people were going, which I'm calling bull because I worked at AMC when we had the Oogie Loves and nobody came to that movie, but we still played it for a week.
Did you watch the Oogie Loves?
No, I did not.
I sat in a theater empty, just me, to see First Reformed, and they still played that movie. So, yeah, I don't think that they pull stuff for poor performance. They'll at least let it finish its run.
Yeah.
And then replace it with something else the next week.
Yeah. It is unfortunate. But yeah, that's like one of the bigger examples I can remember.
It's insane. Again, it's hard to not loop back around on this, but I mean, it's been about a month since all this happened and came out, and yet it's still incredible to think of just like the consequences of like what could happen or what has happened and what can be. And I know it's not outright censorship with the government saying this film is not allowed in this country. We're not dealing with a video nasties list going on or that type of level of censorship,
and nobody's being arrested for making these movies or showing these movies. It was pulled for the safety of the audience, which is admirable, but also frustrating. It's like you're giving in to, but the thing is, it is a very credible threat, especially on the heels of the shootings that had just happened. And that's one thing I don't think Trump understands, that, or maybe he does and doesn't care. He doesn't understand that his words have power to his followers. They take what he says very seriously. So when he says, Russia hack Hillary's emails, what happened? I mean, when he tells people to do things, someone is going to think he's talking to them, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, and just I do feel though that it sets a dangerous precedent. When the president, regardless of who it is, can condemn a movie and in part get it pulled from theaters. It just rubs me the wrong way, and again, especially because going back to it, Trump completely misunderstood the context of the movie, and again, I don't think he can understand storytelling because it was right leaning, so it's kind of crazy that it was condemned in that regard. And
it's not really the president's place to condemn a movie anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like it's part of America that if people want to see this movie, they can go see this movie. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But now, by putting the threat of the theater getting shot up, and granted, that's just what I believe. I believe Universal hasn't actually come out and said it, but I think that they're just trying to avoid another shooting because, I mean, I wouldn't want that on my conscience if I was a Universal exec. And, and again, I think that Universal probably realizes that, eventually we're going to release this movie. It may be to VOD, it may be home video. It probably won't see theaters anytime soon. So it's more like they're just sticking a pin in it rather than completely blowing it up.
Yeah. And although I was also going to say, I am glad though it didn't affect some of the similar movies that came out at that time because like Ready or Not was coming out about the same time, and it's a bit different, but Satanic Panic came out a bit later, but yeah, both of those came out without explicit controversy, and they're both doing good, and they were both great movies. And yeah, and there is something I feel that speaks to our society, especially right now, that there is a need or a drive for these movies about people being hunted, especially in the context of the 1% being the hunters and usually everymen being the hunted. So
it's not really that new, but there's definitely, I mean, The Most Dangerous Game was 33, I think.
Yeah.
And the short story was even before that. But I think that there is a proliferation of them now with like The Purge and then
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. And, I mean, these are great movies. I love all of these, movies. I love watching people hunt themselves, honestly.
But that's entertainment. It's removed from reality. And I don't know, I think the distrust of the 1% is popularized these. I mean, all the Purge movies quickly established the 1% absolutely doing exactly that. They're kidnapping the poor, or they're paying off people to participate in their Purge night festivities. And
especially in the first Purge, you're getting the whole, okay, the reason they're doing this is to basically, it's population control, but it's a specific population control in these areas that can't afford to protect themselves. And by actually paying them to participate, they're weeding themselves out.
Yeah.
The rich don't even have to do their own dirty work. They just write a check or, throw some cash into the street and they do it themselves.
Yeah, which is the thing, that a lot of these movies involve shootings and the horror of trying to survive in these types of societies. And I feel like like horror out of any genre, and I think we talked about this, is one that is kind of tapped into the public subconscious, and it's a way of dealing with our society's problems. So like our society has a problem with mass shootings, so it's only natural that horror movies will spring from our fears as a society.
That's a great point, actually, because mass shootings have kind of been on the rise as well. So that it could be just a subconscious fear that is being tapped.
Trying to process the unprocessable.
Yep.
That's a word.
It is now.
Yeah. I mean, again, before we wrap up, I just want to again applaud the decision on Universal and Craig Zobel just for handling this situation very well. I mean, could have easily been a backlash, could have easily lashed out, could have easily said a lot of bad things, but I think both parties have handled it as well as they could. I mean, Craig Zobel has been very well spoken about. I mean, again, he had his movie pulled. I mean, and it was an original IP. It wasn't, it wasn't like he was adding to another franchise. This was his product. This was his baby. And I think he's been very well. And one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me is he said that this rush to judgment is one of the most relevant problems of our time. And I think that he wasn't just talking about the themes that he was exploring with this film. I think that's a good statement for the whole general issue and what we're dealing with these days.
And this was not just a tiny little independent movie either. I mean, it was Universal, but I mean, this was Hilary Swank, Emma Roberts, Glenn Howerton, the It's Always Sunny guy, Amy Madigan. This was not just a $25,000 movie. This is a movie that a lot of time, money, and effort went into this movie. So it's got to be frustrating for the guy. And, I'm sure that he knows what I've been reiterating the whole time. Eventually The Hunt will see release. Not nearly as big as it was planned, but who knows? Maybe this controversy will bump it up when it does hit VOD. Maybe, like The Interview, people, when it was banned, it just made people want to see it more. Hopefully it'll be better than the interview, though.
I remember seeing the interview on Christmas night or Christmas Eve at the Egyptian Theater in Los Angeles, and they played, like, before the movie, they played nothing but super patriotic videos beforehand. So there was a real sense of patriotism.
Take
and
that, North Korea.
And just like everybody in the theater, when they started playing Proud to Be an American music video for that, everyone stood up and sung. And you know, it's interesting because with that there was a common enemy, there was a commonality amongst, you know, the audience, where it was standing up against dictatorship and an unruly ruler.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if The Hunt will be like that, because it's a division of America rather than, I mean, there's a common enemy when, you know, you're talking about a North Korean dictator, but now, you know, both sides think they're right with The Hunt. So all right, let's wrap this up. But before we wrap it up, we need to pour one out for MoviePass, who has finally called it quits as a company. I tell you, the fat years of MoviePass for me coincided with being unemployed. So I got my money's worth on MoviePass. Yeah. If I was at the movies every day, if it wasn't a press screening, it was for MoviePass. And I saw, even if it was, you know, yeah, sure, I'm going to see Breaking In again or whatever, you know, I'm going to go see something with MoviePass. So yeah, moment of silence, MoviePass. You changed the way we see movies.
Yeah, on the plus side, it did help push a subscription format for moviegoing, and now I'm able to enjoy A-List.
Yeah, well, yes. And also Regal's got one now too. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, It's been a long time coming. I don't think MoviePass was sustainable from the get-go. I'm actually surprised it took this long. I mean, I canceled it when there was a month when and this was about a year ago. I incurred a month where there was absolutely no movies available. And anybody who subscribed to MoviePass knows the screen. No screenings available. Yeah. When I went an entire month where I paid for MoviePass and didn't see a single movie, that's when I canceled. But they definitely changed the way we see movies. And hopefully, I think A-List and Regal, because they're run by the theaters, are going to be a little more sustainable. And it's a different world thanks to MoviePass, and, you know, gone but not forgotten.
I will say, I just want to say a few words about MoviePass. I too was the fat time of, I was unemployed a lot during that. I was also traveling a lot, and I just want to thank you, MoviePass, for keeping me in air conditioning when I could not afford to run my air conditioning. Thank you for not only letting me see It Chapter 1 for free as my first movie on MoviePass, but also all those movies that I did not go there to watch and just gave me a nice reclining seat to nap in when it was 110 degrees out in LA. Thank you, MoviePass. You did change things, but they really went about it like that, like when a college administration has to change their rules on things because one student got blackout drunk and got alcohol poisoning after stealing the dean's car, right? I mean, like, they didn't go about it in the best ways possible, but you know what? It was a magnificent dumpster fire to watch. I mean,
especially once I was out of it and I didn't have a vested interest, it was like the WWE. I'm like, oh, what's that? I still would go to the MoviePass Facebook page and look at the guest posts just to see people complain. I did the same thing with Box of Dread, though, when they were going down too. Sometimes if it's not affecting me, I still, like you said, it's a dumpster fire, and those are fun to watch.
Before they disabled the comments on their Instagram, their posts were gold, especially since they kept posting stuff like, here's our office dog. He's real sorry for all the issues with customer support. He's having a rough day, and everyone would just shit on them. Oh. But also, it was like I went a month without seeing a movie, and then I canceled it, but it was like, oh no, I lost out on $10. It was so funny to see how passionate people were about their $10 but they also did some shiesty stuff with enrolling people when they didn't want to be and stuff like that. So
what kind of pissed me off is the people who would start doing this. They would start going and buying a ticket with no intention of going to the movie, and that's what at one point, I think MoviePass set a limit on the amount of money they would spend a day. So people on the East Coast would buy tickets. So by the time the theaters even opened where we are on the West Coast, screenings would be sold out. And I'm like, and these people think they're sticking it to MoviePass. It's like you're actually sticking it to the other customers who want to use the service. And, so yeah, okay, I hope you feel better about your scam and the scammers, but all you really scammed were the other people who are in the same boat as you, who just want to see a movie for the movie, for their $10 a month.
Still an insane business model. I mean, they gave out
it was
fucking credit cards to people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what they did. Yeah. It was
like, that's
good
hilarious.
Times. Good times. All right, let's get out of here. Our music is Restless Spirit, so go check them out and their new album. Our artwork is Chris Fisher, so go check him out. He's making a Star Wars fan movie called Rogue Bounty, so if you check him out and check that out, and who knows, maybe you can help him out. He's always looking for help, either financially or manpower, so go give him a shot.
I mean, he's been working on that for years.
Yeah, he
awesome.
has. Yeah, he had. Oh, yeah. Well, his thing is he's also like a cosplayer, so he has like he's the Saskatchewan Spider-Man and Iron Man and Ghostbuster. So I imagine, if nothing else, the production design and the costumes are going to be, because his wife is a cosplayer as well. So I imagine it's going to look good if nothing else. I haven't read the script, but me, James J. Edwards. You can find me on Twitter at Cinema Verite. That's like verite, but with fear. So it's Fearite. Where can we find you guys? Jacob.
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Davison _. That is at JACOBDAVISON _. And also check out my horror anthology audio series that I write for Dead Time Stories on Google Play and iTunes. That's Dead Time Stories. There's a little skull and like purple background. I wrote a couple episodes and I think you'll enjoy.
Cool. And where can we find you, Korea?
Well, I'm Jonathan Korea. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Korean Barbecue. That's CORREIAN BBQ. We're also on Stardust. I haven't been posting lately, but I'm thinking since we just had Friday the 13th, I'm going to start reviewing all the Friday the 13th movies from just on the progression of Jason himself, because I got real inspired watching part 2 yesterday.
All right.
Yeah, check it out.
Cool. We will see you in a couple weeks, and hopefully we'll have a more fun topic that doesn't have us walking the fence of politics, because we don't like to do that. But it's really hard to talk about The Hunt without talking about politics. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. For me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
And I'm Jonathan Korea.
Keep your eye on horror.